Hello, my peaceful and profitable entrepreneurs. Happy Wednesday. Happy December 13th. It's my birthday. Yay! So we are talking about embracing the journey, how I turned from crying on the floor into 20K cash months. This is something I want to really be supportive for you. I'm going to give you lots of perspective on being a business owner the past 8 years, as well as being a human on this earth for 40 something years, as well as having 3 kids while I've built my business. So hi, Annis. Thanks for joining. So good to see you. So I really want this conversation to be let's just normalize things. Let's talk about mindset. Let's talk about things I've learned. And then I also want to give you strategic literal things that have helped me that might help you. I'm going to pull up Facebook over here because I realized last week any comments didn't show up on my phone, but they were here in the feed. So if you leave a question or comment, please, ask all the questions, any ahas or takeaways. I'm here for it. As always, we have a special giveaway. If you join live, I want to give you, what are we giving away this week? We'll give away my sales promos masterclass, really how to write sales promos and feel really good about those. It's a playbook, it's a live stream. So if you leave a question or comment, we will reach out to you on Friday to give that away. So thanks for joining. Let's hop in. So the promo about this was picture it, 8 years ago, I'm crying on the floor. And I know that sounds very dramatic, but at the time my child was 5 months old. And so we spent a lot of time on the floor. And so being on the floor was just something that we did. But, and I know Annis probably knows my background, you know me, but for anyone who is new here, I started my business when my oldest daughter was 2 weeks old. So that was August of 2015. Then I had another daughter 14 months later in 2016. I had my third daughter in 2018. So children in quick succession, and as well as building a business and COVID and the recessions that came after that. But we'll go back to what happened when I started my business. I started my business in August when my daughter was 2 weeks old. I didn't accept clients until January of 2016. So me crying on the floor was more of a January 2016 thing, but it was literally a whole thing. People where I worked in a dermatologist's office. I was a nurse. Were like, how are you going to make money? What are you going to do for money? And I was like, I'm starting my own business. That's what I'm going to do for money. But everyone was just so shocked. How could I leave this secure job, 9 to 5? I loved the people that I worked with. I gave them 2 months notice because I did not want to leave them hanging. But it was very much in January after I quit, February, holy shit, I've got a baby. I just found out I'm pregnant with another one. I don't have clients, or I may have had 1 or 2 clients at that point, but it was the fear was very real of what have I done? Have I done the right thing? Have I let my child down? All these fears, hence the tears and the crying, because she would look at me and I'd just be what have I done? This little human is relying on me to support her, and I've just given away a secure job. So it was a whole thing. But that's kind of how I started. Where I am now is we have a team, we have a bookkeeper, we've got VAs helping us. We have grown. We regularly run around 20K months. That's not every month, like every business out there. I fluctuate. We have some lower months, some higher months. We let clients go sometimes, or our work is kind of complete, or they don't renew. That all fluctuates. So business doesn't always look up and up forever and ever, but I have fluctuations as well. But typically, we run pretty full. And I love it that way. We also keep it small. So that's kind of where I am now. From that crying on the floor, what have I done? Holy shit moment. And so I also just want to normalize that I love where I am now. And also the past 2 weeks have been we won't say a shit show, but it's been pretty close to a shit show. One thing after another in terms of humans that I'm working with, dealing with, in terms of government agencies, multiple government agencies, multiple platforms, just shit that I'm just what's going on? I don't even understand how all of this is happening at once. So the past 2 weeks have kind of been the most challenging of my entire 8 years of business. And so I'm not going to give all the details about that because that is not relevant. But what I'm sitting here thinking about is reflecting on how these challenges are literally just a part of the growth and how working for me. And so just seeing this as I would rather learn these lessons now than like in 6 months when maybe I have more clients, or maybe, we're doing something, I'm not doing something different. I'm not going to change my offer, but you know what I mean? I always reflect that to clients too, in terms of like seeing how this works for me. So I also had a client who was dealing with some challenges with some of her clients, and she wanted to double her load. Like she had like 20, and let's say she wanted to be 40. So we were just sitting there like, thank goodness this is happening with 20 clients, just 20 clients versus when you have 40 and you have to like navigate all of this for the first time. So that's just something I take as a mindset, and I really offer to my clients too, is just seeing like, maybe there's just no other possible way that this could have happened except for like right now, and seeing how like this is the perfect time to learn this lesson, or the perfect time to like, I have created new systems and processes now around some of my stuff so that this doesn't happen again for some of these things. Obviously some of them I cannot control, but for the things that I can control, I'm like, oh, okay, I see how if I had a few more clients, like I would really need to have this on lockdown. So it's a good thing that this happened now. So that's just something I want to just like share with y'all, because I know it can feel, especially this time of year as a mom with 3 kids and all the things going on in their school, there's just like so much, and we feel like we're kind of at max capacity for handling things. But just to see it as part of like this bigger picture, this too shall pass, and seeing how it's really working for me. So that's kind of the first thing I want to start with, is like, I love where I am today, and I want to talk about that, but it's not all sunshine and roses like all day, every day. Like it is a shitstorm sometimes, and like that's just how it is. And I love, like, I have a coach, so I have someone that I can get support from, because I literally don't know how I would handle all this without that support. Like, I love my husband, he owns a business, but like I can tell him these things, but it's not really doing what I need. He can handle so much. So anyway, that's kind of like my spiel about one-to-one and getting support, because I think just for all of us as a human, like we just need to have someone there who knows us, who knows our business, who knows kind of what we bump up against constantly, and just be able to like hold space for that and see us in our frustration. I think that's just so important. So we will move on. I'll stop talking about the challenges of the last 2 weeks, but really seeing them as lessons. And something I want to talk about, because it is my birthday, I obviously want to talk about like age and being in my 40s and all that, but just to lay it on the table, like I got married around age 31, didn't have kids till around 33, and these are ballpark numbers because honestly, I don't remember how old I am. I'd have to Google it. I lie up about my age so that like I'm always prepared. Like before I hit 30, when I was in my 20s, hitting 30 just seemed like a big scary number. So I started lying and saying I was already 30 just to like acclimatize and normalize that age. And so when I hit 30, it didn't feel like a big deal. So I've been lying up about my age for like over a decade. And so I'm kind of just like, I don't know, am I 44, am I 42? What does it matter? Who cares? But, these are ballpark ages for me, because I'd have to literally like go look them up because my brain can't remember them. But I didn't make my first 6 figures until I was 39, which was 5 years into my business. I had 3 kids during those 5 years. We had the COVID lockdown, schools were closed. We had an economic recession. We've since had another economic recession. So just thinking about the fact, like, and I put this in the post today on Instagram, and it might be on Facebook too, just thinking about like if your year hasn't gone the way you wanted it to, just thinking about the fact that like you're exactly where you need to be. So I hear so often, and I think like it's a quote, unmet expectations are like the root of most unhappiness. It's when we're like, I should be farther along, or I should have more clients, or I should make more money. That's where like that root of unhappiness comes from, is because we have these expectations of where we should be, but we're not there. And so that gap between where we are and where we want to be is making us unhappy, and we're making ourselves wrong. And so many clients are like, I feel like I should be farther along. I should have more clients than this, or why am I starting my business at this age and like trying to do these new things? And like, I really just want to bring this around to people. Like, I didn't make my first 6 figures until I was 39, which some people are like, oh my gosh, like that seems so late. But to me, it's just like, that was just the perfect time for it. Like it couldn't have gone any other way. Like I had 3 kids at home for so many years. I kept each of them home for about 2 years. I worked nap times and night times. So to make 6 figures in those parameters was just like my brain literally couldn't comprehend that. And so it's kind of all about like right time, divine timing, or whatever you want to call it, but doing things when it's the right time for you. Because when I hit 5 years, then I kind of bumped up my services and really like stepped back and saw like, hey, there's this gap between what I'm giving my clients with bookkeeping every month and what they really need every month in terms of business support and growth and all of that. Ooh, happy birthday text. Thanks, Jenny. But, you know, thinking about who I was in college and who I thought I was going to be at age 30 or 40. Thanks, Stephanie. Says, telling me you're joining. Thanks for joining. But, you know, thinking about who I thought I would be at this age in college is so different from where I actually am. I thought I would work a lot and have dogs. Like, I didn't think I'd be married or have kids. And so just like seeing that everything turned out better than I could have imagined is just great evidence for the future, because it's like things have already turned out. Like, I could not have planned this, and yet it's exactly how it should be. And so just using that like evidence for yourself to see that like it couldn't be any other way, but like somehow it's better than it, you know, could be. That's just a mindset that I really like to take. And just seeing that like my dreams were actually so small, I couldn't have dreamed this big. And so full permission to give yourself like, you know, hey, I don't know what the future holds. Maybe I'm not where I thought I was going to be or where I thought I should be, but like actually it's all just working out perfectly for me. So the mindset actions, because I don't usually have actions with the mindset piece of this, but we're going to have a mindset piece and a strategy piece. But the mindset action is to just really love the phase that you're in now. Like, no matter where you are, continue to show up. Like, it's not going to last forever. No phase lasts forever. That's just the truth. We can look at business, we can look at personal life, like we can look at all of that, and like a phase just never lasts forever. So just continue to show up, because this too shall pass. Or, you know, whether it's good or bad or hard or challenging or easy, like it's all just relative, because time, you know, hopefully we have tons of time left, or some time. And so we still have time for things to change and shift. So if it's this year didn't go as you wanted, or if it's feeling challenging right now, just seeing that like it's not going to last forever, and just continuing to show up, because that's really what your future self is going to thank you for. Like, you know, your future self is going to look back and be like so grateful, like that you didn't quit. Like for me, those years of building my business with kids at home, with COVID lockdowns, it literally never occurred to me to quit. And I think that's like such a valuable piece that I bring to the table. Like, I've talked to other moms who had owned businesses, and then I was like, oh yeah, what are you doing with that? And they're like, well, you know, COVID, so, you know, and I'm like, no, I don't know. Like, what do you mean? And it's like, oh, they quit because of COVID, but like that was never an option for me. Like, that literally never occurred to me. And so that mindset of continuing to show up and just kind of taking quitting off the table, like, and obviously at some point in time there might be the time and place to quit or to navigate or pivot or whatever, but literally just continuing to show up for wherever you are and whatever season you're in is like the foundational key. And then the other piece is to just embrace the season and love it. And I know that sounds like, okay, Jordan, you just had a shitty 2 weeks. Like, how are you loving it? Seeing all the little things that are going right, that is what I've had to train my brain to do. Like, we have a grateful practice with my daughters every morning, but literally just like seeing all the little things that are going well and that are going right, like really grounding into those have been like huge, because it's a lot. So just thinking about like what is going well, what can I love on now, like what is, you know, making me happy right now, or the sun shining, or, you know, the breeze in my hair, like whatever it is. Annis, if you're still here, it's me riding my cart and having the sunshine, you know, smelling the ocean as I ride to school, you know, all those things are kind of like the little things that I'm embracing and loving even when things are challenging. So we're also going to talk about, I heard a client tell me this, it was a couple weeks ago at this point, but she's younger than me, and she was very much like, at this age, I should have done this. And I really, you know, invited her to look at, like, Google your age. Like, this is something you could do too. This is something I did. There are countless examples of people your age who didn't make it until like the exact age that you are. So this was something I reflected to her. she's multiple years younger than me, but I'm like, you're still not behind, you know, like look at all the people and find evidence of people who made it when you did. So for my age-ish, I looked up a list and it's like Larry David, Samuel L. Jackson, Melissa McCarthy, Leslie Jones, Martha Stewart, Vera Wang, Betty White, Jane Lynch, Kim Cattrall, like all these people that you're just like, are you kidding me? They didn't make their first break or their big break until like their 40s, which is wild to think, but it's true. Like, I mean, well, it's true according to like ChatGPT and Google. I didn't actually like ask each of them, but you know what I mean? So I think this is just a fun activity. If you're feeling down on yourself or you're feeling like I should be farther along or like I should, or whatever it is, like just look up and literally see like some of the amazing great things that have happened when people were like, quote unquote, later in life, or, you know, they're past their 20s and their 30s. Because I mean, when I was in college, I thought life ended at 30. Like, that's why I didn't have this plan for my life in my 40s. Because, like, literally life stopped at 30 and, like, there was nothing after that. Like, it just went black, I guess, in my mind. But seeing, like, all this evidence out there of, like, actually it can get to be really good. So that's something that I think is fun to do. And I invite you to Google it yourself and see what your age is and who really, like, hit their stride at whatever age you are. Because that's something that just ties back to this birthday piece of just appreciating where I am in life and everything I've been through. Also, this is kind of a total pivot, but I mentioned the Taylor Swift Eras Tour. So my girls and I are listening to tons of Taylor Swift in addition to Christmas music. But, and I haven't checked for comments. So if y'all have left comments, throw them at me, questions, ahas, takeaways, whatever. But we listen to a lot of Taylor Swift. And what I loved about the Eras Tour was how, you know, all the different phases that she had, some are soft, you know, some are like her playing the piano with like moss on it, and some are just like badass, like snake stuff, like crazy dancing in chairs and, you know, just like in your face and unapologetic. And she's just so proud of all of those phases. And I think that is just like so great as an artist, because she's literally like what, you know, kind of grown up in front of the public, and so like having all those phases like on display for everyone to see and still being like proud of it. Like, I mean, I look back at some of my phases and I'm like, ooh, not my best, but okay. But like, how can we look back and like love all the phases that we've been in, especially as a business owner? Like, I look back at my first couple years in business and I am like, wow, like good for you. Like, you know, getting up at 4:00 in the morning or working after, you know, the kids went to bed, like all these things that I'm just like so proud of that version of me and that era of me. And also kind of going back to what we talked about with like, you know, appreciate the phase that you're in and really seeing that like whatever phase you're in is really like creating, you know, not personalities, but like it's creating traits that are going to serve you later on. And again, as we grow, sometimes we need to let some of those traits go. Like we need to, you know, like that personality piece of you that served you for a while and got you where you are might not be the thing that's going to serve you and get you to the next level. Like people pleasing or perfectionism, like these are kind of all things that we think of as like, this is what got me here, so I have to hold on to it. When in reality, it's like the people pleasing piece isn't going to serve you as you move on. If you're like doubled your client load, you know, that is really going to hold you back. And so just seeing like every phase has like a version of you that gets better and better. Sometimes we take on new traits that are amazing, and sometimes we have to release traits. So I'm kind of getting off topic there, but just seeing that like you can have eras too, and just being proud of all of those, and making ourselves right for that version of yourself and what she did. So now we're going to go into more of like the strategy pieces, like takeaways that you can do. Okay, I don't see any comments. Oh, Anna, thanks for the smiley. Oh my goodness, thank you for all these comments. I'm just now seeing them. Happy birthday, anxiety for missing your potential. Yes, I don't know exactly. Okay, is that what? That is definitely something like anxiety for missing your potential, and seeing that like it kind of goes back to that like Googling phase of like maybe you haven't missed your potential. I was reading, it's a book I'm reading, Hidden Potential, I think is what it's called. And I'm not into baseball at all, but he talks about this baseball player. I think his name was T.A. or R.A. I don't know baseball, but this guy the book was talking about, it sounded awful. Like if I would have been this guy's friend, I would have been like, I don't know that baseball is your thing. Like it sounds like it's not your thing. He spent like decades and he was almost like going in quicksand. Like he was almost getting worse and worse. But his coaches kind of finally told him about one kind of like knuckleball or something. And he didn't know if it was going to work. He had to practice it a lot and he nailed it. And his career like took off. Like when most baseball players had like retired and like hung up their hat or whatever. Again, I'm not a baseball person. I don't really know all this stuff, but I thought this story was so interesting because the fact he had so much perseverance to keep going, I'm like, I don't know that I would have done that. I think I would have hung up my hat if it would have been like decades of me just like progressively getting worse. And he found and I guess that's kind of what the book is talking about, is that like he kind of pivoted and he was trying this new throw pitch that like really nobody does. I think it's the knuckleballs. You like hold your hands like this. Anyway, he didn't know if he was going to actually even be able to learn it. When he was first practicing it, he was in like games and he was losing all these runs. And I think whatever team he was playing for like let him go because of that. But eventually he kind of like perfected this, and that's what like soared him to like stardom. And so I just think this book is really interesting, Hidden Potential. It's at our local library, but I think it brings up so many good points. I heard about it from like a parenting podcast, but just as like a human on this earth, I'm like, oh, okay. I was thinking it would be like for my kids, like hidden potential, but it's just like actually all this stuff like makes so much sense and it's helpful to hear. And they also talk about how it's very normal to like get worse before you get better. What was I reading last night? Because it's also fresh in my mind. It takes a minute for me to like process it. But it was basically about how you have to, slow down and kind of go backwards sometimes before things get better. So like when he was learning this knuckleball, and I hadn't planned on talking about this book or what I would have done more research, but he went backwards. He got fired from the team. There's other situations where businesses have had to like, retrace their steps, so to speak, and kind of slow down and like really like look at things from a different angle and come at it from a different perspective. And so it wasn't like going backwards, but it very much felt like it. And so like what you're talking about, anxiety for missing potential, is just kind of like normalizing that's something that like, I think this book is just like really great about talking about that potential. But if there's anything else, Anna, feel free to drop it. I got the comments here now. So, any questions about that? But I think that's just a very normal thing. I even think that with my business sometimes, not like missing out on potential, but just being like, there's always this, and I love the book, The Big Leap. You kind of get to the point where you're like, is this all going to go away? Or like, am I going to lose everything? And I think as business owners, like any level that we're in, like has either like, we're not where we want to be yet, or we're wanting to be, but then we're fearing like, what's going to happen? Is it all going to go away? And that's some of the work I do with clients a lot, is just like normalizing this new level where they're at so that they don't self-sabotage and don't like, this new level feels uncomfortable, so now I'm going to do stuff to make it go away. Again, it's kind of based on that book by Gay Hendricks, The Big Leap, but it's all about just kind of like normalizing and acclimatizing yourself. I don't know if that's the right word, but getting, used to this level of success that maybe you hadn't anticipated. So that's just like another point that I'm kind of going off on, but we'll bring it home. Strategy, kind of bonus tips. So something I want to talk about that comes up a lot with is imposter syndrome. So this is something like business owners I work with who are brand new with what they're doing, or they've pivoted their business. They kind of have this imposter syndrome. And just to normalize, like, no one knows what they're doing when they start. Like, literally, if you've never done something before or it's brand new to you, like, it's just new to everyone. And so anyone who's got experience or knowledge, like, they also were in that same place and they also had to figure it out. So let's see. I'm looking at my notes. So the piece that I usually bring to clients when we're talking about imposter syndrome is like, the more that we try is the more that we learn. Like, really the only way I have seen people kind of like bust imposter syndrome is just to kind of do the damn thing. Like, there's all this like, oh, we're waiting until we get the certification, or we're waiting until our website looks right, or we're waiting until this. And it's really like, you kind of just have to keep like doing it. Like, you know, you have all the ingredients, you just have to figure out the recipe, is kind of how I think about it. It's like, you've never made this cake before, so like, of course it's going to take figuring out how to put all the pieces together. Whereas like, if you're a human and you're good at what you do, it's like, you take all these facets and pieces of yourself and just like show up and figure it out. Like, I have seen that with my business. Like, as I've done these pivoting from bookkeeping to one-to-one, I can even see with how I show up for one-to-one and this work with my clients, like, that's even changed. Like, when I started, it was like, oh, I thought we were going to look at reports, dig into spreadsheets the whole time. And like, that still is a disconnect. Like, I still had to step into this new piece of like, hey, let's go a little bit deeper. Like, let's go into this. Like, I can't just tell you that you need to increase your revenue. Like, let's literally figure that out. Like, why isn't this working how we thought it was going to be? And so that's something that, like, wherever you are in your business, whether you're new or been in it for a while, like, imposter syndrome at each level can sneak up because we've literally never done it before. And so again, my invitation to you is to just lean in more to the thing. Like, get your hands dirty. Don't lean back and think, oh, I need to watch people, or oh, I need to learn more. It's literally just jump in and just do it, because that's literally like the only way that's gonna make you not feel like an imposter. So hopefully that's helpful to think about. And so like, these strategy pieces are just kind of things that I've seen come up with myself and with clients. The second one is like, to feel the fear and do it anyway. So something I do with myself. I talk to my kids about this, but we're kind of all afraid. And so I think it was Miley Cyrus, and I don't listen to Miley Cyrus. I heard this on a podcast. I heard that she has a mantra that she basically says, I always show up. And so I think that is just such a great mantra, like, whether you use that one or you come up with one of your own, but it's when like you're afraid or you're fearful, and like having this mantra, like, I can be afraid, but I still show up. Like, I can be afraid, and, you know, I don't really have any other like examples right now that are coming to me off the top of my head. But if you wanted to ideate together, we can do that here. But basically, like, if you're uncomfortable selling, if you're uncomfortable getting on, you know, sales calls with people, or pitching to people, or, you know, showing up online with your face, or sending, you know, newsletters every month, and, you know, whatever that looks like in your business that you're scared to do, like, ground into a mantra that's like, I always show up, or like, I always figure it out, or things just always work out for me, or I trust myself to show up. You know, these are the kind of things that like we can just ground into. Like, yes, it's still scary, but like, my business needs this from me. And so that's what I always like to support my clients and have them remember, is like, they are not their business. Like, yes, it's like their baby, and, you know, they grew it and all that, but it's also like, this is me as the business owner, and this is the business. Like, maybe I need to, you know, I don't know, like, not go sit under a rock. That doesn't make any sense. Maybe I just need to go binge Netflix right now, but my business needs me to get newsletters out, you know, every week, or I need to show up and pitch, you know, on some sales calls, because I've never done that. And I've had calls and, you know, provide tons of value, but I never pitch at the end, but my business needs me to pitch at the end. So if that's you, go back to last week's, because we had a whole conversation around that. But thinking about what is scaring you and how can you show up and do it anyway, whether you ground into a mantra or you use examples from your past, like whatever it is, feel the fear and do it anyway. So my third, we've got 5 of these, so just to give you a heads up. My third kind of tip is just to think of like good and fun over perfect. So something we mentioned earlier is kind of that like perfectionism trap, and there's actually a book called The Perfectionism Trap, which I highly recommend. But it's basically how like perfectionism is our favorite flaw, and perfection is bullshit. Like, it doesn't exist. It's not attainable, but really striving for good and fun over perfection. I'm always telling my clients, like, go for like good enough, you know, like, we want to have high standards, but it doesn't mean things have to be perfect. Like, if you're going to send out a newsletter or put a post online, like, make it good enough, you know. I've literally looked at some of the reels, because I do reels on Sunday. I've looked at some, and like the words on the reels, I'm like, oh, that's spelled wrong. Oops. And I'm just like, whatever. I mean, I tried. Like, I was kind of in a hurry. But obviously that's not like ideal, but it's also like I'm not going to hold back because of that. And I just hope, pray to God that no one's like, oh, she used the wrong version of there, so I'm not going to hire her. Like she used this THERE instead of THEIR, like if that's the reason you don't hire me, then we were probably not meant to be together anyway. But, just looking at like, yes, we want to have high standards. Like the amount of support I want to provide my clients is like up here, like next level. And I just know that I'm a human and like we're working with humans, so I can just like release that pressure valve a little bit. And so really thinking about good and fun over perfect. And so fun fact, I think 2024, I always pick a word of the year. I think my word of the year is going to be play. So I'm kind of playing around with it right now. And yeah, I think that's what I'm going to go with because I feel like I just need a little more play in my business. Like it's obviously about holding things lightly and trying new things and not putting so much pressure on it. And I also want to bring it to my family life and with my husband and with my kids. And so that's just kind of a word that I think resonates with me. But, when we're talking about good and fun over perfect, kind of that play aspect of it is just like holding things lightly of like, hey, I'm just going to try a reel and see what happens. Or, hey, I'm just going to try doing some newsletters and we'll just kind of track the data and see what happens. Like letting yourself try things and like think of business as a game that you know how to play. Is that play word again? But just not taking everything too seriously. And I take business seriously. I take my clients' business seriously. My business, like, yes, and we also get to play and think of it like a game. So number 4 is thinking about who gets a vote in your business. And I think this came from my coach, Kim Argentsinger. But it's really about, because sometimes online I kind of want to hold back because like my husband's friends are on there or my in-laws or family or friends from high school. And so I'm kind of like have to remind myself that like my content is not made for them. Like they probably won't like it because it's not for them. They're not a female business owner. Like it doesn't make sense for them to like it. So why am I going to try to create content that they like? And so that's the question I love that Kim says, and like really want to bring that here is like who gets a vote in your business, who gets a vote in your life, and just seeing that like we don't have to worry about running our business and marketing because we're worried about what friends from high school will think or our in-laws or 8th grade teachers or whoever. So really bringing that to your business and seeing who gets a vote in your business. And number 5 is just tomorrow isn't guaranteed. So we want to make sure that we're taking steps to move in the direction of the person that we want to be, of the business that we have, because there's always going to be a gap. Like I'm here, I want to be here. I want my business to be here. I want my results to be here, my revenue, my sales. There's always going to be that gap, but just to see like we are constantly moving in that direction, because then you're going to get to that goal and then you're going to have another gap. So it's kind of like getting used to just taking steps in the right direction and being okay with that and seeing like every day is an improvement. So it's like that saying of like not comparing yourself to other people, but comparing yourself to like a previous version of yourself. So I see that to be just super helpful. It's kind of all I have to say about that one, but let me check any questions or comments, throw them at me, any ahas or takeaways or anything personal about me or my business that you want to share. But just happy to have this conversation with y'all because it is my birthday and I like to get sentimental and I like to share things. And I just think that, it doesn't always look like sunshine and rainbows. I love where I am. I love my business. I love my clients. I love the team that I work with. Like I could not have imagined where I am now. Like it's better than I could have imagined. And it does feel like a job sometimes. It feels like, a random Tuesday, doing certain things, like it's still a job. And so it gets to be both and like we get to hold both. So I hope that sharing my story and kind of some of my insights have been helpful. So we'll just kind of run through some of the big takeaways, basically like loving the phase that you're in, continue to show up, embrace this season and find what you can, like find the nuggets in your day that are working or the things that you like. I didn't mention, but I have a little booklet, and I always invite my clients to do the same, is to have a book and write down like what's working, write down what's going well. I was having my shitty 2 weeks, and out of the blue, this girl I had a call with, months ago, sent me like a testimonial, like this glowing review. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was like, she said something like, keep doing what you're doing, like you're making a huge difference. And I was just like, oh, thank you, I needed that, and it's just nice to have these little nuggets along the way. So look for those, write them down. You can even have like your testimonial somewhere, so when you're having a bad day, you can like go back and look at those. Google, someone your age, like Google your age and see the people who didn't make it big until your age. Use that as evidence. Think of the Taylor Swift Eras tour, like think about your different eras, what they taught you, who you became in those, what you can bring forward with you, what needs to be left behind. And then in terms of just strategies to kind of bust through some of the bullshit that comes up, these 5 things were just things I see with clients all the time and myself. Busting through imposter syndrome, that's really just like doing the thing, doing it more, and realizing like nobody kind of has it figured out. Like we're all just kind of figuring it out. Like the world is changing at a super fast pace. Economy, our messaging, our audience, like all these things change, and all of us are just kind of navigating as best we can, and no one really has it figured out. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Come up with a mantra if that helps you. Think about doing things like good and fun or high standards versus perfectionism. Think about who gets a vote in your business. If they're not a potential client, we don't have to give a shit about what they think. And then tomorrow isn't guaranteed, so just pick up the nuggets and take the daily action steps to move in the right direction. That was something one of my clients said on one of our calls. She's like, December is nuts. Like, I'm literally just putting one foot in front of the other. And I'm like, that's all we can do. Like, we're not trying to grow and like bust through our revenue right now. It's literally like, how can we just put one foot in front of the other? Like, this has been the theme of like so many calls that I've had, because most of my clients are women, they're moms. I'm in those positions too. So there's just a lot going on this time of year. So I hope that this has been super helpful for you, giving you some insights, some ahas, just to normalize all the shit that happens in business, the good, the challenges, and that, 8 years later, we're still here and it's better than I thought it could have been. So if you are in a position where you're like, I love your story, that needs to be me, I want to grow my business, I've got kids at home, feel free to book a 10K content strategy audit call. These are closed for the year, but I'm booking spots for January. So grab a call. This is free support to meet you where you're at. Like, we can talk about your sales process, the journey that your clients go through. We can talk about your messaging. We can talk about your pricing or your offers. Like, this is literally free tailored support for you and your business so that you can walk away and make 2024 a great year. Start building momentum now to be able to book clients and bring in more revenue and have someone in your corner to support you. So I'll drop the link below. We won't be here next week. No, actually, I will be in Antigua, so you'll have a replay. We'll have a replay for the next 2 weeks, and then we'll start back again in January. So keep your eyes peeled, because the replays we have are good, and I have a special little surprise for next week. But otherwise, feel free, if you're catching the replay, ask your questions, leave your comments. I'm so grateful that you're here. And just as a birthday, thank you for being on this journey with me. Thank you for, allowing me to come here every week. I love talking to y'all. This is like one of my favorite things to do. So this is just a special birthday treat for me to be here. And thank y'all for joining live and on the replay, and be in touch. Thanks so much.